we had the first Season 2 Tekken talk, I was, along with most series vets, cautiously optimistic. It seemed like now that the first year drop-off had happened, they'd be taking the game back in a more sane direction, since hardcore and legacy players will be the biggest consumers of Tekken 8 going forward. We were all wrong. Very wrong. At least with what we've seen thus far. Season 2 is looking to be more aggressive than the first ever was, and while I was hyped for Anna, it's getting harder and harder to believe I'll be playing this long term after the new wears off. Look, there's going to be videos every single day until this thing drops, talking about everything we saw in that Tekken talk, about why it's good or why it's bad, about why Tekken 8's a dead game, or defending the new direction the series is taking. We don't need any more recaps of that. What I hope to do with this video is talk about a few more general observations that I have about Tekken 8, its devs, and the broader community right now. Point number 1. Tekken needs actual community managers. Harada and Murray need to step back. I've never been a big user of X or Twitter, but back in the day I remember the first time I heard about this Katsuhiro Harada guy and how he was on Twitter talking to people about Tekken, sometime between Tekken 6 and Tag 2's release. At that time, someone directly involved with the direction of a game talking completely openly with fans and explaining his reasons for balanced story and other aspects of the game was a novel concept. I remember seeing people ask him questions directly and get answers, and as a hardcore Tekken fan for years, I thought this was the coolest thing ever. It was like a direct line to the development team. Harada also had this tough guy image where he responded harshly to haters and told it like it was. Late 2000s and 2010s enjoyers like myself ate it up. But now it's 2025, and it's time to let this go. Whether Tekken 8's direction is good or bad is a matter of opinion. You can enjoy it or not enjoy it. It's totally subjective. What's not subjective is that the game's direction has been controversial. You can easily go on Twitter, Reddit, or your favorite social media platform and find tons of arguments, discussions, and the like about Tekken 8's direction. It's not novel anymore for Murray and Harada to be on Twitter, so the whole bad guy angle amidst the backdrop of a large angry mob portion of the fanbase just makes them look pedantic. Harada and Murray are not PR professionals. They're people whose income depends on this game, and people who have a personal stake in the game because it's their creation. They are not people who are qualified to bear the brunt of the community. It seems like every other day Tekken Reddit has another screenshot of somebody asking a legitimate question and Harada and Murray go off on them and say they don't represent the community or they aren't thinking their opinion through. Look, I get it. Tekken is very clearly personal to them. And I don't blame Harada for that. It's his life's work. But you can't have it both ways. If it's personal, you aren't the person that needs to be dealing with the community. Let a professional do that. Let someone who can take that harsh feedback and ferry it back to you in a professional setting do the work. Look, I've got big problems with Tekken 8, but a lot of the issues wouldn't be near as bad if you didn't have Harada and Murray on Twitter yelling at people who love Tekken but don't like the direction it's going. Even the most recent Tekken Talk fiasco could have been avoided if they had just not gone out a few weeks ago and made it seem like they were toning the offense down and focusing on defense and character expression. This kind of mixed message generates community discord and it gives the internet mob an easy target to head towards. If the Tekken direction was eloquently planned and communicated with a single message between both Tekken Talks, the reaction may not have necessarily been more positive, but at least no one could call them liars or flip-floppers. In fact, people would be able to say, hey, they told you it was going to be this way. Why are you complaining? Save Murray and Harada for big reveals and shaking hands at EVO. Leave Twitter and Tekken Talk to a professional community manager. And I'm not saying that Michael Murray and Harada have to delete their social media because they're game designers. That's not fair to them. But they do have to focus on designing rather than arguing with every fan who doesn't like what they do. It's never going to get them anywhere. You're always going to lose in that situation, even if you are right. Want another example of something that could have been avoided? Remember when Harada and Murray decided to do a poll about revealing all the DLC characters up front, and when people voted that's what they wanted, they just came out and said, well, actually we can't do that, lol, or if we worded it different, the results could have been just as different. I mean, come on, Namco. If you didn't want to reveal them, don't reveal them. But don't run a poll that makes people think you might, only to turn face when you don't get the result you wanted. This brings me to my next point. No one was asking to know the Season Pass characters up front when the game had a good reputation. There's a lot of arguments for both sides of this issue, ranging from analogies about how stupid it is to buy things up front if you don't know what they are, and people saying if you don't like it, just don't buy it. But what's more telling to me is that we all kind of just accepted this practice during Tekken 7's day. I'm sure someone somewhere was asking for it, but it was never a point of major contention like it is now. We had tons of videos, threads, and Discord conversations speculating about who is next and what the next season would have, and we just kind of accepted that this was how it had to be. I think the honest reason we're having a lot of this discussion now is because we've lost faith in the Tekken team and the product. We got Tekken 8 with its wacky balance, reused DLC characters, post-launch cash shop, and fight pass ball from Season 1, so now of course everyone wants to know up front what they're being asked to pay for. You guys can at least see what I'm putting down, right? In Tekken 7, we knew we'd get characters worth playing. Noctis and Negan were kinda meh, but hey, at least the other guests were fighting game characters. And by the end of Tekken 7, it was adding most everyone important of the old games to the roster. And the game was still in a fairly decent place community-wise. But Tekken 8 has burned so much goodwill between the constant barrage of marketing and community missteps, no one trusts the season pass to be worth it anymore. I mean, just look at Season 1. You got Eddie Gordo and Heihachi, both characters who've been with the franchise since the 90s, who've been cut out and sold back to you. And then Lydia, a character who's just a DLC repeat from the last season of Tekken 7. And then here's Clive, a Final Fantasy character no one asked for but was obviously shoehorned into the game to try to get some RPG fans to buy Tekken or something. If you're me, it's just an absolute snoozer of a Season 1. They could have brought back Wang Jinrei or some sort of secret prototype Jack variant and people would have gone nuts, if anything just off nostalgia alone. Instead, it reads like characters they wanted to include but didn't have time for finish. So can you blame people for wanting the list for Season 2 up front? If they don't want to reveal it, be a company and a game that people can trust. That makes the conversation go away. My final point today is that Namco is a company and a company gonna company. If you're Namco and you're in the business of selling games, you're in the business of selling games for any reason, and you're going to take any sale you can get. So what does this have to do with Namco revealing DLCs up front or not? It's simple, really. If I'm a hardcore Kunimitsu fan who has posters of her up in my room and bought a watermelon bikini for my wife, I might buy the game in the off chance that that purple slot on the DLC roster gives me some hope she's going to be in that slot. But if you tell me up front who those characters all are, and none of them are the character I want, none of those impatient people are going to buy your game because there's no hope anymore. Keep people in the dark and give them hope, and eventually some of them are going to part with their money. Is it scummy? Probably. But is it decent business sense? Yeah, it really is. It's the same reason why NetherRealm doesn't come out and say whether MK1 is done or not. The moment you say that, you kill potential future sales of people that are interested in picking up the game. It doesn't do anything to help you make your game more profitable. And you know all those cringe collabs and cheap merchandise that most of the community hates? Namco is literally a toy company. Merchandising is what they do. All these goofy collabs and cheap plastics make them money, so they're going to keep doing it. I'm not saying you shouldn't complain about it if you don't like it. In fact, I think you should be more vocal. Just don't let it surprise you when all this stuff happens. There's a really good video out there called Bandai Namco, a Terrible Company That Nobody Talks About by GamerFox24601. I'll put a link to it below. It talks about Namco's more spurious business practices, and now that Tekken is in the limelight thanks to 7's success, the marketing arm of the business has come calling. I highly recommend watching it if you're befuddled at why Namco is suddenly doing what they're doing with Tekken 8. In the end, guys, we're all Tekken players, whether they like the new direction or not. Instead of hating your online Tekken bros for being stuck in the past or hating the new player for having brain rot, try to articulate your position and why you think that way. And when you see Hurry and Harada yelling at people on Twitter because they have an opinion they don't like, stick up for the people with the opinion they don't like, even if you don't like it either. Again, I'm not calling for harassment or anything like that. I just think you should be able to respectfully state your opinion about the game, whatever it is, and not be bashed to the ground, no matter the level you play at. I think a big part of the reason all this is exacerbated is because of the fact that Tekken can mean so many things to so many people. I used to think there really couldn't be casual fans who only bought a Tekken game for the story content, but then I met one in my workplace. Totally invested in the story, but zero inclination to play at a competitive level. Guess what? This guy has an opinion about Tekken. Nee, JDCR, and Arslan Ash, the best players in the world, also have opinions about Tekken. And then content creators like Main Man have opinions about Tekken. This game is so complex and great that all of these people can find something different they love and hate about it. They can all form opinions about it. But when we sit here and tell them, you can't have an opinion because you're only a red rank, or you can't have an opinion because you're only a story mode enjoyer, we really lose a lot of what makes Tekken so special to so many people. So I guess what I'm trying to say is be good to each other, respect the other opinions, even if you don't agree with them. It is just a fighting game after all. But enough of my rambling. What did you guys think about the Tekken talk? Do you think there's hope for the game? Do you think it's truly going in an unfixable direction? Or do you love the direction it's going and you think the balls to the wall offense is the best thing that's ever happened to it? I'd love to see your comments below. I hope to see you on the next Trendernet video.